welcome back everybody to another episode of the BKA Beloved podcast. I'm your host, BKA Beloved. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to the podcast, and subscribe on YouTube. We're almost at 1,000 on the YouTube, BKA Beloved. Try and get there before the year is up, so go ahead and help a brother out. Subscribe to the YouTube. This is going to be a light NFL podcast today. The power rankings and a couple questions are going to be towards the end, but you read the title, so you know what we're going to get into. The college football playoff rankings are out now, and boy, are people upset. By now, you probably know the top four, but in the event that you don't, number 1, we got Michigan. Number 2, we got Washington. At 3, we got Texas. And at 4, we got Alabama. Most notably missing from those 4 is undefeated ACC champion Florida State, who are pissed. And I feel a couple ways about this. First of all, before the championship games even started, there was no universe where an SEC team was not going to be in that top 4. Matter of fact, whoever won that SEC championship game was going to make the playoff, regardless. Before the game, I jokingly tweeted, congratulations to Georgia and Alabama for making it to the playoffs, because I thought both of them were going to make it in. And would you like to know who else thought that? Texas. That's why they made sure to beat the stuffing out of Oklahoma State, because they knew they had to make a statement to leave no doubt at all that they were one of the 4 best teams in the country. You know who else had a chance to do that? Florida State. And they did not. Whether fair or unfair, they had a chance against Louisville that night to make a statement and say, Jordan Travis may be out, but we're still one of the 4 best teams in the world. And we're going to put it on Louisville on national TV on ABC for the whole world to see. They won 16-6. What do you want? What do you expect from the committee? What do you expect from the public? And after all that, everyone's avoiding the most important question. All the people that are defending Florida State, we're avoiding the most important question. I want you to look me dead in my pupils as I ask this. Do you genuinely believe that Florida State can beat any of the 4 selected college playoff teams, let alone number 1 Michigan, who they would have been playing? Do you think one-on-one right now is currently constructed? Can they beat Alabama? No. Can they beat Texas? No. Could they beat Washington? No. Definitely can't beat Michigan. So by definition, they are not one of the 4 best teams in the country. I'll take it one step further. Does anyone listening to this expect them to beat Georgia? Of course not. So they're not even one of the 5 best teams in the country as currently constructed. So for y'all that are saying that them losing Jordan Travis shouldn't change the equation of how they're considered, clearly it does, because it changes the way we're thinking of them as a team. Now, the one person I do feel bad for in this entire situation is Jordan Travis, because of what he tweeted after the decision came out. It did hit me in my soul. I'm not heartless. It hit me in the soul. Now, Jordan Travis tweeted as follows: devastated, heartbroken, in so much disbelief right now. I wish my leg broke earlier in the season so y'all could see this team is so much more than the quarterback. I thought results matter. 13-0 and this roster matches up across any team in the top 4 rankings. I am so sorry, Gold Nose. Okay, now when you have a college kid apologizing for breaking his leg, that's going to pull on anyone's heartstrings, right? However, like I just said a couple minutes ago, it does change how we see the roster. It just does. I'm sorry, guys. It just does. And I could already hear, oh, but the kids, it's so unfair to the Florida State students and the athletes, and it's so unfair. So now we care about the players, huh? So now we care about these athletes. These athletes, these very same athletes that y'all say are ruining college football. Oh, with the transfer portals and the NIL. Oh, they're just ruining the game. Jordan Travis himself is a transfer from Louisville. And if you've listened to me at any point, you know I am as pro player as it gets. I'm always here to defend athletes, especially when they're of college age. And the way that these weirdos react to these kids going into the transfer portal, it irks my spirit, and I don't think it ever won't irk my spirit. But I think I have a solution that'll be great for all of us. If we treat college football like the professional sports league that it is and always has been, we could fix this overnight, and we don't have to deal with none of this transferring shit. Get the players a union, get a CBA or collective bargaining agreement for y'all that don't know what CBA stands for, with each conference or with the NCAA as a whole or whatever y'all decide on. Get actual contracts with the school where the school pays them and not whatever NIL sponsor or super PAC of donors. No, from the school, the actual people they're generating revenue for. More on that later. And have, when they sign their letter of intent, they're signing a contract with the school, whether it's for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, include a red shirt stipulation or whatever. Make this professional, because that's what it is. That's where it's heading anyway. So let's rip off the Band-Aid now and just make it happen. Oh, and most importantly, I cannot stress this enough. Have the school pay them. I'm so tired of hearing y'all say they're making all this NIL money from the school. Why would they leave the school? The school is not paying them. It's not the school that's paying them. Oh my, just read a goddamn book. I can already hear the counter argument. Oh, but then they won't go to class anymore. Oh, then they won't be students. Have you ever heard of work study? Have you ever heard of graduate assistants? All these other people are capable of working a job and going to class at the same time. These athletes have already been doing it for decades. They're just not getting paid for it. That's the only difference. Now they're getting paid. And since we're going to be treating them like professionals now, giving them an actual deal and contract, the same way Patrick Mahomes can't just up and transfer from the Chiefs to go over to the Patriots because they have a contract together, all he can do is demand a trade. The same logic is gonna work with the college students. The whole student athlete thing has been a facade since the beginning of time. It's time we just acknowledge it. Rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go. Also, why would these players be loyal to these schools that clearly are not loyal to them? In my opinion, the three greatest college football players are Reggie Bush, Cam Newton, Joe Burrow. The bottom two, if they would not have transferred, would not have had those seasons that they had that are so memorable to us. Imagine if Joe Burrow would have wasted away on the bench in Ohio State. We would have never got arguably the greatest college football team ever assembled at LSU. In your weird dream world where players are at the school they signed their letter of intent to and they're just stuck there for the rest of their lives, we would have never got the magical Auburn Cam Newton season, which is the only relevant Auburn season we've ever got. All this crying about the players making money and they're free to transfer and blah, blah, blah. Y'all never have any of this smoke for the coaches. And that's what really gets me. Mike Norvell is making somewhere in the area of $8.3 million a year, with a $250,000 signing bonus just for still being the coach every December. So for still having his job that he signed the contract for to keep his job, just for still being there, he gets paid. We got one coach that's getting paid for still being there, on top of the contract money he's already making from the contract he signed. And then we got another coach, Jimbo Fisher, who's going to be getting paid $70 million to not work. But God forbid the actual players who we are tuned in to watch actually get something off their labor. That actually brings me to my next point, right? So I was reading the Sports Illustrated article where Deion Sanders was picked as Sports Illustrated Person of the Year, which a lot of people had issues with that. There was no bigger story in sports than Deion Sanders at Colorado. Yeah, it ended poorly, but at the start of it, it was everywhere. The whole sports world was in Boulder, Colorado. And when I was reading the article, I stumbled upon something I thought was pretty interesting. I'm going to read y'all this quote directly. Visit Boulder, the Convention and Visitors Bureau calculates that the total economic impact of the first 4 home games, where the attendance was up by nearly a third over the past year, was an estimated $77.8 million, a massive jump from 2022. Would you like to guess how much of that went to the players? All due respect to Coach Prime, he ain't put on a helmet and shoulder pads since 2005. We are there to see the players play. So again, I ask, how much money did the University of Colorado put in these players' pockets? Not through NIL money, because again, that's not from the damn school. Not improving a locker room, not improving the weight room. To these players, I'll cut the pretense. That number is 0. That money didn't disappear into thin air. That $77.8 million went into somebody's pocket. It just didn't go in the pocket of the people that were actually doing the labor that produced it. You know, back in the day, we used to have a word for that. It slips my mind right now. It starts with an S. Who knows? All right, off my soapbox I go. So everyone has a problem with the playoffs and the way it's constructed, right? Well, luckily, I'm here to fix it. First of all, we're going to 12 teams next year. Way too many teams. We don't need 12 teams. We need 8. There are now only 4 conferences that matter now that the Pac-12 is gone. ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC. So we can make this real simple. Each conference winner, you're automatically in. No ifs, ands, or buts. Same way it works in the NFL. If you win the AFC East, you're in the playoffs. NFC North, you're in the playoffs. Seeding will depend on record, strength of schedule, tiebreaker, blah, 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 blah. But we'll get there in a second. The next 4 teams, you take the top 3 teams from them same Power 4 schools. That's going to take a while for me to get used to. I'm so used to Power 5. But Power 4 schools, take the next 3 teams with the best records. If it's 3 SEC teams, so be it. If it's 3 Big 10 teams, so be it. One of each, even better. And then you take 1 team from the lesser D1 schools. I'm sure they have an actual name for it, mid-majors, I think. But take one of them so they don't feel left out. Even if they lose by 50, oh well. Y'all want to be included so bad? Come on down. Tiebreakers for the seeding, we can make that simple too. We can start with conference record. Then we can go to opponent winning percentage so we can start weeding out the teams that schedule cupcakes all season long. Georgia, looking at you. And then we can throw in point differential in case we need another tier. And the best part about this, we don't need a committee and some guy named Boo coming onto the ESPN lot to do an interview to let us know why they didn't let a team in. We have math and established rules. So there is no confusion at all as to why these teams are in and these teams are not. The only thing we can argue about is seeding, which shouldn't matter because all these playoff games are in a neutral site anyways. It could all be so simple, but you'd rather make it hard. Shout out to Lauryn Hill. Quick break, and then we're going to get to the next topic. I just noticed this is a very angry opening to the podcast. I promise it gets fun later on. I promise. But right now it gets even darker. Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey is being investigated for allegedly having a relationship with an underage girl. And before I get to him, I gotta get to y'all. Specifically, y'all that are attacking Malika Andrews, Stephen A. Smith, and other black journalists that are not covering this Josh Giddey story the same way that y'all want it to be covered. I need y'all to know this. Hear me and hear me good. We have become so used to hearing people on the internet, and I'm in this category. We're so used to hearing people on the internet speak freely about these topics and not being held to journalistic integrity and standards that we want to hold the people that are on TV to those standards. We can't do that. Malika Andrews and Stephen A. Smith cannot go on the worldwide leader in sports, ESPN, international TV, and give legitimacy to an internet rumor, which is why they waited until the NBA announced the investigation to say something about it. They are not podcasters. They are not YouTubers. They aren't random bloggers on Twitter. They are journalists. This is very different. And with Malika specifically, there's a lot of things that are wrong with the beef that a lot of you weirdos have with Malika Andrews, but this one is very close to the top of the list. These narratives come because it's perceived that she has a negative opinion about a certain group of people. Malika Andrews is a host. She doesn't give opinions. She reads prompters and tosses to the next person. She doesn't give opinions. We don't know what Malika thinks about shit because that's not her job to tell us what she thinks about stuff. And as far as Stephen A is the face of the biggest sports brand in the world who is in partnership with the NBA. Do you think he's going to jump out the window and accuse one of these players of statutory rape on national TV off a Twitter rumor? Come on now. Come on now. We got to use our brains for these things sometimes. And we're just pulling these narratives out of the literal cracks of our asses. And we're attacking Malika Andrews and Stephen A. Smith more than we are a man that is being accused of statutory rape. And while they're being held to this high journalistic standard, I am not held to that standard. So let's get into the shit, shall we? Now we have circumstantial evidence about Josh Giddey's alleged relationship with this underage girl. To me, the most damning of which is he had 2 speeding tickets in July of 2022 in Newport Beach, California, where the girl goes to high school and allegedly lives. Obviously, they're not putting the girl's actual city out there because underage girl, safety issues, not a thing. In July 2022, that would make the girl 15 years old and Josh Giddey 21, which, you guessed it, very illegal. On top of that, there are multiple pictures floating around the internet of him shirtless behind this girl. There's one picture that I can't confirm or deny whether it was edited or not, so I'll give them this in the interest of attempting to be fair, where it literally has in big white letters, "I just fucked Josh Giddey." There's more videos of them together, videos of him talking to her friends, videos of him talking to her brother, talking about some "I'm with your beautiful sister." And that's the information that I was able to come up with without billions of dollars of resources to my name like the NBA has. I got maybe $50 in my wallet right now, and I was able to find all that. To say the NBA is dragging their feet on this is an understatement. They are up to their eyebrows at this point as far as dragging. It does not help that the girl is allegedly, this is according to TMZ, refusing to cooperate with the NBA and with police. However, in a shocking new development at the time I'm recording this, the family has retained an attorney, a famous one, by the name of Gloria Allred, who has been a famous advocate for women in cases against powerful men and celebrities for decades. It's according to ESPN. So this is where the legal eagles and people that are more familiar with how the law works can explain. I don't know if that means that she is going to cooperate and she needed to talk to a lawyer to make sure she cooperates the right way so she doesn't get in trouble, or she's going to try and counter sue, or I don't know what that means. However, I know what the circumstantial evidence tells me, and to me, it seems very clear that Josh Giddey should not be anywhere near a basketball court or a school zone. And maybe it hits me a little bit harder because I have two sisters that are high school age, and if any of these motherfuckers, I don't care if you know how to dribble, crossover, or if you can't do none of that, if any of you grown motherfuckers were to come into my home talking about some "I'm dating your sister," I'm beating the brakes off you. We ain't even gonna need no investigation. So we're gonna update again once this story gets fully resolved. But hopefully we get some goddamn answers, cooperation starts happening, and once Josh Giddey is found guilty, I gotta try and be responsible here, allegedly, if he's guilty, we can get him the fuck up out of here. And if he isn't guilty, allegedly, we can clear his name and put this behind him. Quick break again and we'll get to the next angry topic. Last angry topic, then we'll get to the fun stuff. One thing you should know about me, I condone violence. I believe the world will be a much better place if more people feared getting punched in the face. Now, I'm not one of those everyone should have a gun, mutually assured destruction, blah, blah, blah. I'm not that far on the condoning violence piece. However, if you feared catching a quick to the jaw, I feel like it'll restore some balance into the way that we speak to each other. Where am I getting this from? Well, the past couple weeks, there's been a couple run-ins between athletes and fans that really make me think, if y'all thought these athletes will punch you in the face, you would not behave this way. Most notably, Russell Westbrook, who's had multiple run-ins with fans over the past couple years, who just flat out said in an interview, "I'm not having it no more." And I quote, "It's just unfortunate fans think they can get away with saying anything, and personally, I won't allow it. I've taken a lot of people saying anything and getting away with it, but I won't stand for it." Now, Russell Westbrook is 6'4", about 210 pounds of walking muscle, and is one of the most athletic players to ever play in the NBA. If he punches one of you average people in the face, it is slow for you. It's slow for you. Right now, everyone's all brand conscious. They don't want to make the sponsors mad. They don't want to pay a fine or a lawsuit settlement. So right now, shit's cool. Everyone's getting their shit off, and okay, one day, one of these athletes are not going to care. And they're going to look at you and they're going to say, this punch is completely worth whatever I have to send this settlement money at. People are signing $100 million deals. So if I got $200 million contracts behind me, investments and all that there, I'm up a couple hundred M's. Oh yeah. $1 million to make sure that no one else talks shit to me again. Oh yeah. Boop, boop. We good. And don't expect no sympathy from me when all this happened. Maybe it's the way I grew up, because I grew up with the understanding that saying something the wrong way could potentially get your ass beat, or at least you have to be ready to fight if you're going to be slick at the mouth. I'm a slick talking dude. I'm a joke cracking dude. This is what I do. In order to do that, you have to earn that right. Now, I'm not here to debate whether it's right or wrong. That's just the reality of the situation. So being that that's how I grew up, I'm just always walking around like that. I haven't had to fight nobody in like a decade. I still carry that with me. And I know that y'all aren't built for this, because look how y'all responded to Jamal Adams. For y'all that missed it, a man by the name of Connor Hughes, who is a SNY New York writer, a journalist quote tweeted a video of the tight end from the Dallas Cowboys, Jake Ferguson, catching a touchdown on Jamal Adams in the Seahawks-Cowboys game, quoting it simply saying, "Yikes," in all caps. Jamal Adams quoted the tweet saying, "Yikes," in all caps with a picture of Connor Hughes' wife, which I thought was hilarious, let me tell you. Because his profile picture doesn't have his wife in it. He had to go find that. It's just so funny to me. Apparently, I'm the only one who thought it was funny, because all you hypocrites came out the woodwork and started calling him so much worse to prove your point that he should not respond that way. Oh, his classless piece of shit. How dare he respond back to these people like that? So he's supposed to sit here and let y'all slander him online all day long and say nothing and say absolutely nothing. I'll bring it back to Jamal Adams in a second, but Paul George was in an interview recently at a press conference after locker room game interview, whatever. He was there and they asked him about what Russ had said. And he said, "This is our job. People cannot come into our job and talk to us however way they want and treat us however they want. Normal people would not like that." And a bunch of people quoted his tweet and were giving their stories about how when people come into their jobs and treat them poorly as customers. We call those people that treat you poorly Karens, and we all agree that they're shitty people. Nobody likes a Karen. We all agree that they suck. We all want to eradicate Karens. So why do we as fans accept Karen-like behavior towards these athletes? That, again, the only thing saving you from getting your ass beat is the thought that they would have to cough up some money. To close out this thought, I'm not saying that you cannot criticize athletes. Obviously, I'm not. I have hundreds of videos of me criticizing athletes. However, when you start to make it personal and you start to make it beyond what the play is, you start to take these personal shots, it is only a matter of time, especially with the way gambling's going, and now some of y'all are losing big amounts of money on the performance of these athletes. All right, you go ahead and let your emotions get the best of you because you lost $1,000 on a parlay because he missed a shot. I bet he ain't gonna miss a shot on you. Let me tell you, don't lose your consciousness and your parlay in the same night. That is not gonna be a good situation for you. All right, quick break. We'll get to the NFL questions, get to the power rankings, and we'll get on out of here. All right, and now we're going to do a question from the followers on the NFL. If you want to submit your question, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, you can turn in your question every Monday morning. You'll see a picture that says questions for the week. You submit your questions in the comments. You can hear right here on the podcast, just like this. Is Patrick Surtain the modern day Champ Bailey for Denver? Is he a top 3 active corner? All right, so let's get the easy one out the way first. Patrick Surtain is easily the best corner in football. Not even top 3. He's number 1. 2 and 3 are probably Jalen Ramsey and Sauce Gardner, Deron Bland. He's nice. Great year he's having so far, but let's stack a little bit more of a resume before we can put him in that list, right? As far as comparing him to Champ Bailey, I know I have a slight younger of audience, so boys and girls, gather around the campfire. Let me put y'all onto a little bit of a lesson. Champ Bailey was the undisputed best corner in football for the entire 2000s. In fact, I'll put a better timeline on it. From the post-Deion Sanders to the start of the Richard Sherman era, he was the best corner in football, with the exception of that one insane Darrelle Revis year. And even then, it was a debate. So to say Patrick Surtain in year 3 is the modern-day Champ Bailey is one hell of a statement. But once I started digging into the numbers, it didn't seem as crazy. Just follow me here. So first, you got to start with comparing to All-Pros. Both of them became All-Pros their second year in the league. Champ Bailey was a second-team All-Pro his second year, and Patrick Surtain was a first-team All-Pro his second year. Now, on the screen right now, I have their numbers compared to each other for the people listening to the podcast. This is Champ Bailey's first 3 years compared to Pat Surtain's first 3 years. Obviously, year 3 is now and it's not completed yet, so take the numbers with a little bit of a grain of salt. But Champ has the advantage by 13 picks to 7. They both have 1 interception touchdown. Champ has a sack. Pat Surtain does not. Both 1 forced fumble. Champ has 2 fumble recoveries. Pat Surtain has 0. So Champ has him beat as far as stats, but it was a little bit different of an era. And Champ was younger in his career and had Darrell Green on the other side of him, so he was getting a lot more targets at that point in his life. I can't even tell you, gun to my head, who the other side corner of Patrick Surtain is, so they're avoiding him like the plague right now. But most notably on this comparison is by year 3, Champ Bailey still only had 1 All-Pro. Unless Pat Surtain gets hit by a meteor, knock on wood for all my Broncos fan friends, he's probably going to be the first team All-Pro corner this year. So he'll have 2 by the end of this year and another Pro Bowl selection. So is he on track to be a modern Champ Bailey? Sure. But Champ Bailey was the best corner in football objectively for 8 years. His first team All-Pro was in 2004, and his last one was in 2012. So for Pat Surtain to be the modern day Champ Bailey, he had his first team All-Pro last year in 2022. He has to get his last one in 2030. So that's asking for a lot. But I like Pat Surtain, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Thanks for the question. Should Tyreek Hill be in the MVP conversation? In a fair world, absolutely. Miami's currently the 1 seed. He is clearly the best player on that team. With all due respect to Tua, I'm not one of those Tua just throws lobs and blah, blah, blah. I like Tua. I think Tua's a good player. But come on, Tyreek Hill's the best player on that team. He's the engine that makes that team go. And I could tell you who the MVP damn sure isn't, Brock Purdy. And again, I'm not a Brock Purdy hater. But I don't even think the most devout Niners fan thinks he's a top 5 player on his own damn team. And if you get me drunk enough, I don't even think he's a top 10 player on his own damn team. So by any definition of what an MVP is, most valuable, no, he is not. Best player on the best team, no, he is not. That would be Christian McCaffrey. But we all know it's a quarterback award. So if it's not Brock Purdy, who else could it be? Great question. Jalen Hurts is still not out of the race, and neither is Dak Prescott. If you're going to tell me that Jalen Hurts' game against the 49ers disqualifies him from the race, I would hear you if we didn't have 3 straight games of Brock Purdy stinking it up. So wouldn't that disqualify him from the race? Even though, for me, this might just be a personal thing. I can't have 2 different conversations about you in the same year. I cannot ask, are we going to bench you for Sam Darnold and should he be MVP within the same 2-month span of each other? I'm just not going to do that, me personally. I'm just not doing that. If anybody on the San Francisco 49ers is going to be the MVP, it should be Christian McCaffrey. But it's a quarterback award, so that's not going to happen. But if the Dolphins end up with the 1 seed and Tyreek Hill breaks the 2,000-yard mark, which by all accounts it looks like he's going to do, I don't see how you don't give him the MVP. As much as I like Dak and Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes and Lamar, none of them have ran away with it. And nobody's ever got 2,000 yards before. And we need to commemorate that with something a lot deeper than just offensive player of the year. We got to give the man the MVP. Thanks for the question. Are the Niners the new powerhouse of the NFC, especially if they stay healthy? Thank you for that caveat, because the Niners are very top heavy, as we saw during their losing streak. 1 or 2 injuries, that team is done for. But as far as they the new powerhouse of the NFC, we're going to have to get to that in the next segment of our power ranking. And if you're watching the segment version of this on the videos, the power ranking video should be out now, and I'll put it in the annotations. All right, power ranking time. Time to piss off people's fan bases because a random stranger on the internet doesn't think your team is as good as you do. As always, I'm starting with the first 2 out. We're starting with the Steelers. They are still the 5 seed, and I still believe in Mike Tomlin, but I don't believe in Mitch Trubisky. You can't make me. I never have, and I never will. As much as I had my doubts about Kenny Pickett, I knew for damn sure he was better than Mitch Trubisky. And it looks like he's going to miss multiple weeks. So hopefully they could win 2 of their next couple games so they don't fall out the playoffs completely. But do they get to 10 wins with Mitch at quarterback? I can't see it. Next is the Jaguars. Not only did you just let Jake Browning go out there and look like Joe Burrow, Christian Kirk is gone for the season. And Trevor Lawrence, it went from he broke his ankle to maybe it's his Achilles to, oh, it's just a high ankle sprain. Something don't smell right there. I'm not accusing nobody of lying, but I'm just not buying the next week isn't in doubt yet. Yes, it is. We will not be seeing Trevor Lawrence next Sunday, and we might not see him the next couple of Sundays. High ankle sprains can take up to 6 weeks to heal. And if you remember the Saints game, he was out there with a brace on his knee looking like a transformer. So he's already had lower leg injuries already. So if he does come back, how much of Trevor Lawrence are we actually going to get? Again, y'all just better hope CJ Beathard can get you 1 or 2 more wins so you can hang on to a wild card spot. Other than that, the Texans are coming for that division and you just got to hold on to it. All right, future Kevin that's editing this. Let me get my graphic. Thank you, sir. Number 10, I got the Indianapolis Colts. Guys, I don't know how the Colts keep winning games. I looked everywhere. I looked for breakdowns. I'm not even an analytics guy. I looked at DVOA and the EPA per play. None of it makes sense. We don't know how this is happening. Jonathan Taylor's out. Zach Moss isn't lighting up the world like he was earlier in the season. Gardner Minshew didn't change his life and is now magically an efficient quarterback. No, he's still trying to lose that game at every chance he get. But somehow they keep winning. I don't know how it keeps happening. But they're in the playoffs still. And now that Trevor Lawrence might miss the rest of the season, they have a chance to win that division now. Because of course. But in the interest of fairness, every other time that we see a team that we don't know how they're winning, but they keep winning, we give credit to the head coach. So shout out to Shane Steichen, rookie head coach. I don't know how you're doing it, but you're doing it. Shout out to you. Speaking of head coaches, at number 9, I got the Green Bay Packers, and y'all let Aaron Rodgers' grumpy ass convince you that Matt LaFleur cannot coach, and now look at him. Jordan Love looks pretty developed now, don't he? And everyone's acting all shocked that he looks better now than he did week 1 or 2, as if the magic revelation that the more a quarterback plays and has a coach that'll actually guide him through the process, he'll look better over time. I know, right? And I'm not going to do the whole Jordan Love looks like Aaron Rodgers thing that Chris Collinsworth just couldn't help himself from doing it. God bless Collinsworth. I'm a fan of Collinsworth, unlike most of NFL Twitter, but he just couldn't help himself from the Aaron Rodgers comparisons. What he does look like is a kid with insane arm talent that watched Aaron Rodgers for 3 years and watched him say numerous times, hey man, just let it go. Fuck it. Just throw it. You can do it. Just do it. And now we have the balance between the fuck it, just do it, and a little bit more of that Matt LaFleur efficiency. He has not thrown an interception in 3 weeks. He threw 10 in all the weeks before that. And the rest of their season doesn't look like it's going to get much harder. In order, they have the Giants, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. They might not lose another game for the rest of the season. And when it gets to the playoffs, they might be running into team number 8, the Detroit Lions. Has a team ever screamed first round exit louder than the current Detroit Lions? You follow up the loss to the Packers on Thanksgiving with opening up a 21-point lead on the Saints. Everyone's like, all right, anomaly on Thanksgiving. The Lions are contenders. They're back. Oh, no, they're not. They did everything in their power from that point on to lose the game. From 21-0, the Saints got it up to 21-27 at one point. But then, the Saints, they're not on this list for a reason. But oh boy, the Lions, man. In theory, they should be on the same tier as the 49ers and the Cowboys because they all have the same record, but we all have eyes, and we all know that's not how that worked out. At number 7, we got the Houston Texans. Love to see that win that they got against the Broncos. Really needed, because if they do end up fighting for a wild card spot instead of winning the AFC South, the Broncos are also going to be fighting for that spot, and not having a tiebreaker over them would have been detrimental. We've covered the superstardom of CJ Stroud almost ad nauseum at this point. Not that I'll ever get tired of covering CJ Stroud, black quarterback solidarity and all that there, but we got to give some love to Derek Stingley Jr. They were trying to bury that man after last year because Lovie Smith had the best man-to-man corner prospect to ever get drafted playing cover 2. In layman's terms, they had him running the wrong thing. It was bad. It was all bad. Magically, now you got DeMeco Ryans in there. He looks like he was supposed to be the number 3 pick again. Funny how that works. Number 6, I got the Miami Dolphins. An absolute head kicking of the Washington Commanders. The defense is coming along more and more. Jalen Phillips goes down, and his backup comes in and starts getting some sacks. Now, sacking Sam Howell isn't that much of an accomplishment, but still, you got to give credit where credit's due. Tyreek Hill is borderline guaranteed to cross 2,000 yards at this point, which is nuts to say. Before the season, we heard him say it on his podcast. We're like, all right, we've heard players say wilder statements on podcasts. We kind of let it go. But oh no, here he is. He's actually about to do it. Tua has continued to stay upright. Before the season, I always said, I'm not going to take them seriously until we get to like week 14 and Tua's still upright. Well, it's week 14. Tua hasn't missed a snap. And this offense is near the top or at the very top of pretty much every statistic. So if they could be the team that we consider good in the slightest, it is time to start taking the Dolphins seriously. At number 5, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. I've been looking for an excuse to drop the Chiefs, and I'm very happy the Packers gave me a reason to. The Chiefs' surrounding offense around Patrick Mahomes is awful. If you double team Kelsey, who he isn't even as good as he used to be. I don't care what the numbers say, we have eyes. You double team Kelsey, they don't have any other receiver that could lead them and win one-on-one. Isaiah Pacheco is nice. He is not a running back one that you'll be able to say, all right, we're all going on his back and we're going to win this game because of him. And the defense that's been keeping them afloat all this time, they're down to like their 3rd or 4th string inside linebacker, so they can't even make the same calls that they used to make. Their communication's off, so Steve Spagnuolo can't even make his exotic blitzes. This could get very bad in Kansas City very quickly. I'm genuinely concerned for them from that Buffalo Bills game they got coming up. And we all thought the Bills were left for dead not too long ago. Before I move on from the Chiefs, quick point for all y'all that don't understand context. There's a contingency of you that are upset that we keep mentioning Mahomes' lack of weapons, and you call it excuses saying, oh, but when my quarterback, we say they don't have weapons, you guys didn't say that, and blah, blah, blah. Yes, we're giving the two-time Super Bowl champion and two-time MVP, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live already. We're going to give them more leeway than whoever your quarterback is that has accomplished none of those things. Because unless you're talking about Matt Stafford or Aaron Rodgers, whatever quarterback you're talking about has not won a Super Bowl. And unless you're talking about Lamar Jackson or Aaron Rodgers, whatever quarterback you're talking about hasn't won an MVP. So yeah, we're going to give Patrick Mahomes some leeway. Anyways, team number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. We've given a lot of attention to Dak Prescott and what happens when he plays against a good team, when we should have been paying attention to this defense the whole time, who got sliced and diced by Geno Smith. Luckily for them, our guy Dakota showed up to the stadium with a fork, knife, and spoon himself and was ready to feast that day. God forbid that y'all give Dak Prescott credit for any goddamn thing, but I'm here to do so today. The Dallas Cowboys have the highest scoring offense in the league right now. Not by average, by most points. They have scored 388 points throughout the season. That is more than the Dolphins, who are considered the greatest show on turf. Say what you want, they beating up on bad teams, blah, blah, blah. We're giving Dallas some goddamn credit if they beat the Eagles. Speaking of the Eagles, at number 3, I got the Eagles. This is as far as I could drop them after they lost, but oh boy, did they get that ass whooped. Whoo, whoo, woo, woo. There's no way around that one. And it's funny how losing brings the bitch out of a fan base. And I love Eagles fans. They're one of my favorite fan bases in the league. But man, all season long, all these other teams were complaining to y'all every time y'all won. And y'all were like, nah, don't make excuses. We're winning on the field. Y'all lose to the Niners and it's every excuse in the book. God damn, guys. The Niners were dreaming of that day at Lincoln Financial since January. And it was just one of those games where, hey man, y'all just weren't going to win. Clearly, that just was not your day. If you take care of business for the rest of the season, y'all will have a chance to run it back. And because you still have a game up on the Niners, if you manage to win out the rest of the season, it might even be back in Lincoln Financial. But the season isn't over. You only have 2 losses. You'll be fine. And lucky for you, you're not going to see an offense like the Niners until, Dallas, highest scoring offense. Well, try to take care of business on Sunday Night Football, because if you lose to Dallas, you go from number 1 seed to 5th seed, just like that. Number 2, I got the Baltimore Ravens. What a great bye week for the Ravens. It could not have gone better. Every team in your division, except for the one that cannot win that division, lost this week. 2 of the teams who were fighting for the 1 seed lost this week, and one of those teams also lost their starting quarterback. What a great bye week. However, every AFC North quarterback not named Lamar Jackson is now injured, and Lamar's been injured these past 2 years at the end of the season. So go ahead and wrap him up and bubble wrap in between games. Don't even make him practice. Someone carry him throughout the facility. Don't make him walk. Nothing until game day, because keep him healthy, and then you'll have a chance. All right, number 1, at absolutely no surprise to nobody, the 49ers. Dear God. The last question from the NFL questions was, are they the juggernaut of the NFC? You missed the letter, NFL, because the best of the Niners is better than the best of everyone else that we've seen so far. It's one thing to beat very good teams. It is another thing to put up 42 on the Eagles and the Cowboys, put up a 30-piece on the Seahawks, and beat the Jaguars 34-3. They have yet to lose a game where Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel start and complete the game. Outside of the Ravens game, the rest of their schedule, I don't know who beats them. And getting home field advantage in the NFC, it's not one of those situations where, oh my God, I don't want to play in Levi Stadium because it's so scary. But it's the fact that every other team is going to have to travel across the country to come play you in the playoffs if the rest of the season goes the way it should. Not to mention, their last road game for the entire season, the only road game they have left, is against the Washington Commanders, who are dead on arrival and are just waiting to fire their lame duck coach and probably everyone else in the organization, including the people who valet cars. Just what a team, what a season. Wow. All right, thus concludes the power rankings and thus concludes the podcast. Don't forget, like, favorite, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend, and subscribe to the YouTube. We are almost at 1,000. We're trying to get there before 2023 is over, so go ahead and do that for me. With that said, talk to y'all next week.